Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flint. With us today, Assemblyman Brian Kolb, who serves the 131st Assembly District, which includes the counties of Ontario and Seneca. And Brian Kolb is a leader of the Republican conference here in the Assembly. Leader, nice to have you.
Always a pleasure, Ted.
3 weeks to go before the end of session. There are some outstanding issues yet to be resolved. Among them, this idea for tax-free zones the governor's put forth. What's your overall take on the tax-free zones?
Well, I think there's a couple takes I have. First of all, I would prefer that we lower the tax burden for everybody in New York. And certainly I know that SUNY campuses, the college campuses, are looking at this as an opportunity to grow their campus a little bit. And the governor's talked about the fact that this might be an incentive to have people create more jobs here. I think the better approach would be to have an overall approach to reducing property taxes, income taxes, corporate franchise taxes, reducing our energy costs or workers' compensation for everybody. And certainly I think that makes our state more attractive for people to stay here, but also maybe for people to move here. And right now we're ranked 49th out of 50th in terms of competitiveness with other states in terms of the economy and economic factors that CEOs look at. And so on one hand, I'm always a guy that likes lower taxes or no taxes, but I think it can be a little problematic to create a zone, if you will, for specialized for a certain group of people while the rest are paying their full burden and share. And so, I think it's, I haven't seen the details of the bill in terms of all the specifics and the geographics. Does this apply to satellite campuses as well as main campuses? And again, some of the tax relief that's providing the people. And what the governor said, well, this is not taking revenue away. It's just that it's revenue we would not get if they were not here. But I'm not so sure about that. And again, you always like to hear different ideas. I'm going to wait to finally decide until I see the specifics of the legislation. But overall, I would say I'd rather have an approach that we're focusing on reducing the costs and tax burden to all businesses and all families in New York is a better approach here to create those incentives for the economy to grow here in New York State.
Now, is this plan designed for upstate SUNY campuses primarily, or is it throughout the entire state?
Well, that was the plan that was originally rolled out by Governor Cuomo. But now you're having some people from downstate specifically say, well, what about outside of New York City? What about Long Island? And so now becomes the mechanizations of Albany at work to say, what about me, what about me, what about me? And I think this is certainly why you have to see the bill. Will the bill actually come out for a vote? Will they come up with an agreement? I don't know yet. It's too soon to tell. So the governor, I think, is just floating this idea, trying to drum up support, kind of outside pressure in towards Albany to try to put pressure on the legislature to support this idea. But I still think there's a lot more to discuss about it before we move forward.
You can see how this would be. Obviously, it's attractive for the employees of these startups to be they wouldn't have to pay income taxes for 10 years, right?
Well, that's again one of the proposals.
One of the proposals.
And other tax relief ideas. But I would say, from a business that's already in my district, in the 131st district, well, what about me? Where's my relief? I've been here for 30, 40 years paying my fair share of taxes, and I'm not going to get a break. So that's really the dilemma that has to be crossed here, and that's why I think that the support is tepid, I think, right now on this idea.
What other issues out there do you think need to be addressed in the next couple of weeks?
Well, certainly I think we're always looking for unfunded mandate relief. First and foremost, we've talked about this a lot. There is some conversations about further mandate relief. One of the items that's been brought up is trying to modify the Scaffolding Act, which is absolute liability when someone's been hurt on a construction site or a home construction site, and the cost to home builders. I think that's something that's been talked about for years in terms of trying to get that modified. That's being talked about. I don't know if we'll take it up, but certainly anything that we can do to reduce cost and mandate relief to localities and school districts is something that hopefully will be part of whatever we do between now and the end of session. And really that's what's always interesting to me is you really have no for sure idea until the day comes as to what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, and what's negotiated behind closed doors, which is also problematic for me. And so, again, unfunded mandate relief certainly do no harm. Let's not do any legislation that hurts the businesses and families in New York State. But we're taking up bills like medical marijuana, campaign finance reform. These are one-house bills right now that aren't agreed upon with the legislature and the governor. Will any of these be an agreed-upon bill by the time the end of June rolls along? It's just too soon to tell. So there's a lot of, balls being thrown up in the air here, Ted. Casino gambling, what are we going to do or not do? We took a vote last year. Will we take another vote to put it on the ballot for the voters at home? The tax-free zone. So there's just really a lot bubbling up there. Governor just announced today a women's rights bill. But there's some pieces of that bill that are very difficult to swallow. Further codifying abortion. I think we've already plowed that field.
That's right.
And I don't know other than politics, why that's in this particular bill. So there's a lot of difficult things yet to address in the next couple of weeks.
Where does mixed martial arts stand at this point? I heard a radio report today saying it's done in the Assembly. Is that accurate?
Well, it's passed in the Senate several times, right? And there is enough support, I believe, for the MMA, mixed martial arts, to allow this in New York State in the Assembly. But what's happening, there's a small group of Assembly Democrats that are from New York City. They're basically saying they don't want to vote on it. Well, my belief is, well, too bad. There's a lot of things we vote on in the Assembly I don't like either, but that's our job. So I think that there's enough support in the Assembly, and I called on the Speaker of the Assembly today to bring the bill out for a vote, and let's see where the votes are. And the votes are there to pass it, great. And if there's not enough votes to pass it, well then, at least we had due process. And I think this is some of the things that, there are a lot of good bills, Ted, that, as you know, you've worked around here long enough, that never make it out of committee or never make it out to the floor for a vote because special interest groups or even pockets of the Assembly Democrats, because they don't like the bill, they give the Speaker a hard time about even bringing out to a bill for a vote, which is wrong. And this is why Assemblymember Johns from the Rochester area actually has a bill that he's proposed that each member should at least get one bill of their choice to bring out for an up or down vote to bring a more democratic process to this chamber. And so we're going to continue to try to reform Albany, as we've introduced a Public Officers Accountability Act dealing with the corruption in Albany. There are a lot of great ideas out there, but unfortunately the way the Assembly Democrats have run the chamber is on a day-to-day basis, a lot of good ideas get stifled and get stopped in the back room. Like
Assemblyman John's bill, the SOUL Act, getting that to the floor for a vote, how likely is that to happen?
Well, I doubtful because, the Democrats don't want to give up any power. And that's what you're really talking about is absolute power and control. And that's not democracy. It should be more negotiations, more compromise. Assemblyman Mark John's got a great idea. We had a bill to take away public pensions from those public officials that were committed for crime. They killed it in committee. I had a bill for term limits for leaders, which would try to strip away this ingrained power over the years. They defeated that in committee, but yet they talk about that they want reform. And I think that's our job, is to keep pushing the majority, being in the minority, for better government and for a more open government and more transparent government and a more functional government. And that's what these arguments about. It's not about, really, it's not even a quote-unquote Republican-Democrat thing, but it becomes that way only because the Assembly Democrats have been stifling good ideas for too long a time.
It's also a time of year where people, from around the state come to visit the chamber, and that happened recently with the Blue Star Mothers in your district.
Yes, actually, we had representatives from Blue Star Mothers from all over the state, and I had a particular group from the Finger Lakes region, Canandaigua, Bloomfield, and we welcomed them on the floor, and I introduced them as well to welcome them to Albany.
All right, let's take a look at that. We'll come back with Assembly Minority Leader Brian Kolb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to extend, obviously, a warm welcome to all the Blue Star Mothers that are here today and all the Blue Star Mothers across the state. We really appreciate all of your support and love and friendship for all of our veterans, the men and women that serve our country so bravely. And having your support at home means a tremendous amount to all of them who serve. And being the dad of 2 U.S. Marines, and also my one son also serves in the Navy Reserve, I really appreciate your support as well as a father, proud father. of two military guys that serve our nation. And with that directly, I would like to extend a personal warm welcome as well. From my district, we have Joyce Mader from Canandaigua, who's the president, Bonnie Beck from Canandaigua, vice president, Valerie Haynes, the project coordinator, Bobby Metcalf from Bloomfield, financial membership, and also from Bloomfield we have Judy Corda, the Chapter 5 president, a founder of Chapter 1, and the former recording secretary of the National Blue Star Mothers of America. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to again, as well as my colleague, Mr. McLaughlin, is to welcome, a very warm welcome and gracious welcome to the Blue Star Mothers of America.
Certainly. On behalf of Mr. McLaughlin, Leader Kolb, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome the Blue Star Mothers here today to the New York State Assembly. We extend to you the privileges of the floor. We thank you so much for the work that you do for those who defend us and in holding those families together. And a belated Happy Mother's Day to you. So welcome here.
That was fairly recently, obviously, a week or so ago. Very nice. So you have a son who serves?
Actually, my two sons have served in the United States Marines, and they're honorably discharged. My one son in the Marine Reserves and the other in regular Corps. And then my son Clayton re-enlisted in the Navy and Navy Reserves, and he's been a commissioned officer now. So in addition to his duties in the American Red Cross, he also serves our country through the Navy Reserves, and very proud of them and the work that both of them have done on behalf of our country.
They should be proud. Very nice. This time of year, a lot of local bills are introduced. Just explain to the viewers out there what a local bill is and why it's done this way.
Well, they call it a local bill because it's a bill that's directly impacting an assembly member's district or a senator's district. It's not a statewide bill that goes in effect for every single county or village or town or school district. Right. And so in particular, we have a bill that I think you're going to show that which allows Ontario County to apply to the federal government for a foreign trade zone in Ontario County, which basically means it's an opportunity for businesses in Ontario County to kind of do a little bit more fast track at lower costs in international commerce. But you have to apply to the federal government to do this, and one of the requirements is New York State government has to allow that to happen.
So the New York State government's the intermediary, basically.
Correct.
Let's look at that bill, and we'll come back and wrap things up with Leader Brian Kolb.
Assembly 4665A, calendar number 315, Mr. Kolb, an act to amend the county law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
The clerk will record the vote.
Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 96, noes 0.
The bill is passed.
And, you know, bills such as that, I mean, there are hundreds each session, mostly in late May and throughout June.
That's correct, and it involves local taxation and a variety of different things, and it's just one of those things that a legislator wants to advocate for their district that they represent.
So if a county wants to raise its sales tax, it has to come to the state in order to do that, to get the authority.
That's correct. Or if they want to extend a sales tax or extend a mortgage recording tax or a hotel motel tax, they need permission through legislation by Albany to process. And actually what I've tried to encourage is that let the locals decide and let the locals pass it and take state government out of it, because it would save a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of nonsense.
Kind of decentralize it.
Correct.
I like your thinking on that. All right, if you have any questions for Assemblyman Brian Kolb, Leader Kolb, you can get in touch with him by calling his district office. That number right in front of you. In Geneva, 315-781-2030. Leader Brian Kolb, always nice to see you.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon on the next edition of Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flint.